Hello, hello. Welcome to A Bold and Distant Future. We are a podcast that grew out of a book talk. Believe it or not, we started a year ago as a book talk. But today we're joined by Scooter, and my name is Roy.
Hello there.
Hi. Got a smattering of applause going on right now. 20 minutes. We were going to try to cover the news. Again, it was a pretty heavy news week. You know, we were talking just a bit before we started the podcast about the one item that I didn't put on the show was the bombing of the Venezuelan, drug ship that was coming towards America. But you said it was going towards Trinidad.
Well, I'm getting my information from the Wikipedia article, which is already up. And it says here, somewhere, that it was headed towards Trinidad.
So bombing ships in international waters is a real authoritarian move. It's kind of like that guy in the Philippines, Duarte or something.
Duterte.
Yeah, who does like really vicious things.
Yeah.
Without trial.
He's before the Hague right now, isn't he?
I don't know.
I believe he is.
Well, this last weekend was the big Labor Day protest. I hope many of our viewers got out there to protest. I went to a protest and I saw a couple of signs I thought that were worthy of sharing on the show today. This one was what my belief is: the rule of law and the power of the people are potent antidotes for the poison of autocracy. And we're seeing some wins in the courts, I think, but we need more people on the streets.
Yeah, and we just pre-show were chatting a little bit about that, weren't we? And we were talking about the effect of both fatigue and cynicism, and the fact that this may be the last generation, the boomer generation, because it's all geriatrics out in the street, as you noted.
Right.
That we sort of grew up in a belief that popular protest was effective, and to some degree it was. I don't think it is anymore.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, it's an organization tool. It pulls people together who are similarly committed, and then potentially provides organizational resources and other resources by which we can begin to fight against the autocracy. And typically that means tabling. So,
what do you mean by tabling?
Well, I assume that when you went to this, there were various organizations, groups, political character that had tables set up.
Oh, I see.
With
Yes,
their pamphlets
there
and
were
books and petitions and things like that.
There were things like that going on, and that was good. We stopped at a few of the tables and we talked to people and grabbed some information and so on.
So I think that's primarily, the best use of a public event like that is to create some synergy between the various causes that are represented, and focus on building something of a united front. But most politics, I think, at a personal level, are now conducted via the internet. So, you're plugged into your phone staring at that magic rectangle. That's where the organization begins to happen these days. So how you translate that into a public event, I'm not entirely sure. I think the best thing to do is do what they did in Seattle. What was the name of that community that they created in the street? It was like an autonomous zone.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, it's very similar to Occupy Wall Street.
Right.
I think those kinds of events, those kinds of actions are probably still effective. Problem is that they get in people's way, and it's the people who typically you want to pull over to your cause that you're discomforting. You start blocking traffic, for example. It's a great way to get the press. It's not a great way to win people over to your side. So we have to figure out, I think, how best we can utilize a public space in the age of the internet, and somehow or other encompass both. Anyway, you moved on. We're talking about Epstein now.
Yeah. This Epstein event that happened in Washington, D.C. was kind of very interesting in my view, because they had around 100 Epstein survivors who were talking about their trauma and what they went through. But some of the people that were there, this happened on September 3rd, Marjorie Taylor Greene was there, a fellow Thomas Massey, who's a Republican from Connecticut, and it was all spearheaded by a guy called Ro Khanna, who's a Californian Democrat. And sort of, in a way, it's becoming this bipartisan thing. But I don't know how many other Republicans were there. I think I heard Boebert was there. But this guy, Representative Massey from Kentucky, was saying this is not a hoax, which flies right in the face of what Trump was saying. He said this is the Epstein hoax,
Yeah. Yeah, the pitchforks are coming out. And it's interesting that this appears to be, aside from legalization of marijuana, the one thing that can bring blue state voters and red state voters together.
Yeah, it could. There's a fellow called Jim Stewartson that I highly recommend. He has a Substack presence. I don't know, he might be elsewhere. But he was talking about what he calls the Darvo flyover, because in the middle of the speeches, there were U.S. Air Force jets that did a flyover right when they were talking. And it sort of disrupted the entire event. And he calls it a Darvo flyover because Darvo is sort of a way of looking at the abuse of people and how they retaliate. Here it is. It's a Darvo. Psychologist Jennifer Freud, if I'm saying her name right, Center for Institutional Courage, coined the term Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender, to describe a well-known strategy of abusers, which this Jim Stewartson is really into. He's kind of got this website about psychological warfare in the political realm, and specifically Trump.
So gaslighting.
Yeah, gaslighting is part of it.
What is the Center for Institutional Courage?
I don't know. I don't know Jennifer Freud's work other than this Darvo thing that I looked into, but there's a lot of it out there to explore, which we could look at later. But this White House deputy assistant, his name is Kalen Dorr, made a comment. Someone wrote, fighter jets flying over Falls Church. Anyone know what's happening? And he responded, freedom. Freedom is happening, Karen. Kind of in his, he's a real idiot, this guy, Kalen Dorr. He's like this kind of a tech bro Bitcoin Republican, if that makes any sense.
Oh, makes total sense.
Yeah. And,
you notice how they're all developing this kind of look?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's the blue blazer with the big beard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so, just people I don't want to hang around, that's for sure.
Well, I have a beard and I do own a blue blazer.
I don't know. Well, I'd still want to hang around you, Scooter. No worries.
Thanks. Likewise.
Anyway, the abuse and these authoritarian macho power moves are so horrible to witness. I don't know.
They're comic.
Yeah, I guess we have to look at them from a comic view. They're very, it's posturing, and
it also indicates that we're getting to them.
That's true too, right? Because they're getting defensive, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Donald Trump posted this on his Truth Social page. He retweets a lot of things. So someone else puts it up, then he adds it to his. And whether or not he's really running it or not, who knows? But the caption says, "The world will soon understand. Nothing can stop what is coming." And in his
hand, it looks practically messianic in that picture.
Yeah, and in his hand, he's got this sort of, I want to say it looks like a Q with a plus, or is it a Q with a cross? I don't know what's on his hand. It's an O, maybe.
That's weird.
Maybe it's a Q. And then the whole earth sort of ringed in fire.
Well, in the palm of his hand, he's got well, I think that's just his palm. I don't know what that is. Is that a Q or an O?
I don't know. I was thinking
but
Q.
I think that's supposed to be a cross. I think that's how you're supposed to see it. And what is that little scribbly on his right shoulder?
I think that was
spiritual something.
I think that was the signature of the artist, but I don't know. Anyway,
it's just too bad you can't scroll back. That would be interesting.
Well, these ominous posts of his are so unfiltered, and it just doesn't seem like any normal White House would sign off on a president posting stuff like that, We had four...
Well, we typically don't have a president who's trying to pose as some kind of avatar, which that last picture kind of did, but it's sort of like this really weird... I can't think of a precedent for this. Mussolini didn't do that. Stalin didn't do that. Mao didn't do that. But he is presenting this quasi-spiritual aspect to his presidency. as if he is the anointed one.
Yeah, this deification thing.
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah, God Emperor.
and man, the MAGA people are just lapping it up. They love it. Anyway, this was a strange thing. There was something thrown out of the, I think it was the Lincoln bedroom in the White House. Something was flying out the window. And then Trump says the video showing someone throwing bags out of the presidential bedroom was AI. It's like,
He might be right. I mean, those windows are probably secured beyond belief.
yeah, I could
Opening
have.
up a window would probably set off any number of alarms. Secret Service would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't matter. They
Yeah.
they would be present immediately.
Right. I mean, that's a real distracting kind of, story that doesn't have any weight in any kind of political way. But just the fact his reaction to it was to discount it and to call it AI.
Maybe it's Putin's feces.
Maybe. I thought it could have been somebody they chopped up in the middle of the night upstairs and then threw him out the window. But they were saying it was a contractor doing some work. And then they threw the debris out the window rather than take it out through the rest of the building. Or someone said it was his diaper genie.
All right, I went with Putin. You're going with Diaper Genie. You do know that they collected Putin's feces, right? Only
No.
as the whatever the KGB is called now. The Russians collected Putin's feces because we have a history of doing that.
Oh, so if he on his trip to Alaska?
Yeah.
Oh,
They basically carried his bodily waste back to Russia.
no kidding. They don't want his DNA getting out or something or whatever.
Well, we did that with Brezhnev. We did something to the piping where it
We
went
captured
down
it.
a special pipe or something and ended up in the hands of the CIA.
Wow, that's deep knowledge. I didn't know that. Well, here's a win in the courts.
Shit happens.
Yeah, Trump's use of troops in Los Angeles was unlawful, a judge ruled. Well, that's good news. I mean, I'm thinking the courts are one of the courts and being on the streets are the two things, in my view, that will save us in some ways, And this was a win in the courts because if he can't move the troops into Los Angeles, he shouldn't be able to move them into Chicago,
Oh, I want to see him try in Chicago. I will take a trip to Chicago just to watch.
What do you think will happen? You think it'll be a standoff of some kind?
Let's put it this way. Chicago does not really emanate that kind of cool, laid-back Southern California mellowness.
Mm,
Kind of the opposite, in fact. So I'm sure it would get real interesting real fast.
wow. They'll make it look like, it'll be a standoff or worse,
Yeah,
huh?
circling back to things happening in the street. What would happen in the street would not look like a geriatric protest.
Right. Well, let's hope something like that happens, not for any injury to people, but just to send a message that people won't stand for it anymore, Well, this happened too. The Washington D.C. is suing Trump administration over the National Guard deployment.
Hmm.
So the city's standing up again. All these things seem to boil down to court decisions. A lot of them do.
Yeah, they've been pulling weeds from median strips.
In
There's not a
DC?
whole lot for them to do.
Yeah, I've heard about them doing gardening in the city.
Hmm.
Very, just a bad, I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. That's half of why I want to do this show once a week, is just to make sense of the news. And I really appreciate you, sending your opinions out here because it helps me see things differently too.
Yeah. Well, ideally, you would have people from different regions of the country because, I can speak for myself in the environment context that I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
which is highly Midwestern. But if you had somebody from, say, the South and from the Northeast, and maybe even from Texas, that might give a clearer picture. Something to think about.
Yeah, if we know of other people who would like to join us, let's get them on board here. I would love to have this be more representative of the entire country. That would be nice. Well, I wanted to go back to visiting the authoritarian personality book because there's the list, the F scale, the fascism scale, that we never really totally got through. And I think this is a powerful book to kind of help us get a handle on these authoritarian moves that Trump and his cronies are making. I think we looked at A, conventionalism, authoritarian submission, authoritarian aggression. I think we're at D, anti-introception, which means opposition to the subjective, the imaginative, the tender-minded. Basically what, going after anyone that's different or weak? Is that what that means?
Let's say, if we can put this in art history terms, that it's the arts and crafts movement as opposed to the futurists. I know you know about this stuff.
Yeah.
The arts and crafts movement was kind of a step back away from emerging technocracy in the face of existing industrialization, basically suggesting that returning to a more village-centered culture, with handmade objects and, what kind of like the Midsummer Village, only without morons.
Right. It's like a humanitarian view of, people.
Whereas futurists were pushing hard towards the upsetting of the current situation, not only in the not only of arts and crafts, but general bourgeois mentality, by pushing this idea of complete subjection to industrialization. Everything was about force. And
so does that what ushers in a guy like Mussolini then?
You could say that. You could also say it could usher somebody in like Lenin. But what it ushers in is somebody who wants to make a hard break with the past and start essentially pushing industrialization, technocracy, and so forth to the limit. So I guess a current equivalent would be transhumanism.
I'm not sure. What was transhumanism? Is that sort of is that relating to trans people?
No. Think of the Borg.
Ah.
Yeah.
Like bionic people.
Kind of, yeah. But, it's the merging of technology with organic life, right? To create essentially a new species. People are Musk is into this. Schiff is into this.
Schiff?
Yeah, isn't it Peter Schiff?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know Peter Schiff. I've heard of Adam Schiff.
Maybe it's Adam Schiff. I don't know.
He's the Democratic.
Nope, that's not the guy.
Senator. No, okay, I don't know Schiff.
SCHIFF, transhumanism. Okay, it's not coming up. Doesn't matter.
Let's talk about that further. I'm really interested in this, in what you're talking about, the relationship between art and politics. And I would argue that art leads in sort of a political way,
Peter Schiff, by the way.
Oh, Peter Schiff. Maybe he's someone to look at if we can tie it back in some way.
So, yeah, there's an interesting interview where he's asked about whether or not does he want the human race to survive is basically the question. And he pauses for like 15, 20 seconds to the point where the interview says, they're kind of taking a long time with that question. So, yeah, he's into this. Musk is into it. I think I mentioned that.
Right.
Certainly all the tech bros
right.
have kind of an investment in it. This is where they see the project going. Well, that's kind of like the futurists, only they weren't dealing with cybernetics. So art and politics. Where do you want to go with that?
We can go any direction. I mean, send some stuff over and we'll look at it. That would be really hopefully an interesting conversation that would draw in more viewers and interested parties. Because we've talked about art and statues, and we analyze these memes and other kind of Republican art, MAGA art in a way. But I think to go deeper into the tech bro side of the artistic experience, I mean, that would be very, I think, a fertile ground to explore.
I can try to put together a small outline.
Yeah.
Maybe we can bring this up in a future episode.
Yeah, send some images and we'll string them up here.
One thing that people, we think of the plastic arts, painting and, sculpture, film, right? Should think about architecture too. I think I don't really have much to say about it at the moment, but I think that would be an interesting dive.
Yeah, let's go there.
Because architecture is how we create both private and public spaces. And I think probably the Apple headquarters, that big round space that they created, it's a circle.
Right.
Has some significance, and it'd be fun to explore that.
I think you're right. Hey, thank you for being here today, Scooter, and thank you for anyone listening to A Bold and Distant Future. Come back again, like and subscribe, everyone. Take care. See you next time, Scooter.
All right. See you around.
Bye.
Cheers.